Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Executive. We're so fortunate to be at the Colorado Venture Summit, where a lot of founders are meeting investors from all over the country that have come in the Raleigh Hotel in downtown to talk about what their companies are building and potentially raise capital in this crazy environment that we're in. Today I'm joined by an incredible entrepreneur and Shannon Erley of Pomp, co-founder and CEO. Shannon, thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So you're building a company that I'm probably the least skilled person to talk about this, where you're connecting estheticians with their clients through technology.
Yeah.
So can you talk about that a little bit, of what you're doing, where did the idea come from, and what you guys are trying to build?
Yeah, so I like to say if you're familiar with Uber or Stitch Fix, we're building that in the beauty industry and really using technology and marketplace to connect and build better relationships with estheticians and their clients. And so we're essentially a vertical SaaS and marketplace that really supports the aesthetics industry. So for example, if you went to get a facial from an esthetician, after you would get an invitation to Pomp, you can follow up with all of your client relationships through on-platform messaging and then get your whole routine through Pomp, and everything is drop shipped directly to you. So it really helps the client experience and then also build a better relationship with the aesthetic professional as well.
I'm curious how this idea started, because your background's obviously all in beauty, 15 years or so.
Yep.
How did the idea come to you?
Yeah, so I was working in the beauty industry, working with brands like New Face, some of the Unilever portfolio lines. I was really in charge of selling to retail and digital retailers. So worked with Sephora, Ulta, Amazon Luxury Beauty, Dermstore, kind of everyone in between. And I just started really getting frustrated with the beauty industry as a whole. As we all know, it's a really crowded industry, but it's a massive industry. People spend hundreds, thousands of dollars a year on skincare and beauty products, but it's really hard to navigate. And then if you're a direct-to-consumer brand, it's really hard to compete. And if you're not just using traditional retail or influencers to get the product out, it's just going to be hard to compete in such a crowded industry. And all the while, I was struggling with really bad adult hormonal acne. And so I figured, okay, here I am in the industry. I felt pretty well-versed. I could navigate products and to my knowledge, and I was in the industry, but I was really still struggling with my skin. And so it wasn't until I started getting facials from an esthetician, and at the end of my facial, on a piece of paper, she wrote down what my routine should be. And then I left, and I had to go figure out how to get this. And so for me, this was the biggest light bulb moment of, wait a second, here we have a highly fragmented industry within beauty. So think independent estheticians, med spas, dermatology, plastic surgery. Everyone operates independently, but yet they have the influence to make really good recommendations, but they don't have technology or marketplace access in one centralized location to do that and help build better client relationships and routines and recommendations. And for me, that was this aha moment of, why isn't anyone in the industry coming alongside and building technology to support the broader aesthetics community? And we really view that as our first wedge into the bigger beauty industry. So we're starting with the aesthetics and then going to be expanding beyond that.
And then in terms of how it actually works, do you do a virtual visit with an esthetician and then they help connect you with the products, or how does it work exactly from the consumer standpoint?
Yeah, so what I love about the way we've built our platform is it actually works in a few different ways. So you can do a virtual consultation with an esthetician, and then they would send you an invitation to Pomp. So the client or consumer would get an invitation to Pomp. They would be able to connect and then basically view their whole routine and check in with their esthetician at their own accord. So that's one way. And then we have, on the opposite end of the spectrum, we have medical spas that are location med spas that are using us for pre-op. So if you're going to go in for a laser treatment or facial plastic surgery, you would get an invitation to Pomp with your pre-routine care ahead of time. So there's a lot of different ways that you as an aesthetic professional can use the platform, but also as a consumer can interact with the platform.
Amazing. And from what I'm told, it's a huge industry.
Yes.
I've seen it,
Yes.
but maybe don't live it always. But it has not always been easy. You incredibly raised, over $3 million in what is such a hard environment right now. But even more so, we share a mutual friend of one of your investors, and we've been fortunate enough to learn just like how incredibly resilient you and your co-founder Nicole have been to get this company through this period, to go raise the funds you needed to keep the company alive. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about many things here to unpack, but how close you were to potentially, not being in business, and, what it took, and how did you have the mindset to keep going, and how did you end up raising money?
Yeah. So, lot to unpack there. But Nicole and I say our spirit animal is actually a cockroach. So,
you just can't be killed.
Yeah, we can't be killed. I think there was a lot of factors that played into, us making it through. But one of them is we were seeing a lot of really great success already, and early signs of product market fit and all of the really great metrics that you want to see, we were seeing. And I think as a founder, it can be really hard because you are so close to the business. And so we wanted to make sure, are we fighting for this out of pride, or we just can't let this go, or are we fighting for this because we really are onto something? And it was the latter, because we were seeing the impact that Pomp was making for not only consumers and changing their whole experience digitally, but also all of these professionals and being so meaningful for them. And also with the help of outside counsel and our board, and Nicole and I work with an executive coach, and a lot of very intentional conversations went into how we can make it through. And we were faced with some very difficult decisions. Last year, as we all know, the economy just really started to affect anyone raising capital, and no matter how good your business was doing. And so that was hard, and we just had to make very difficult decisions to make sure we were doing right by our investors, because we also take investment dollars very seriously, and we know that they took a risk in us, and we wanted to make sure we were doing right by our investors. And we made some hard decisions to keep the lights on, be able to extend runway as much as possible, personally invest additional funds to do that. But also, I think between Nicole and I, well, yes, I'm the CEO and I could make a unilateral decision. That's not how we operate. And some of the hard decisions we had to make, we brought our husbands in, because ultimately it would affect them and their risk tolerance, and just had a lot of really intentional conversations around what we needed to do to give ourselves a fighting chance. And we did that, and we are very resilient, and I think it just shows our character and our grit to push through. But also our team saw that, and our team kind of weathered the storm with us, and now they've come out on the other side, and we have an incredible team that went through that with us as well.
Yeah, you probably get so close after something like this.
Yeah.
Right. Well, not only did you raise capital, you brought in some incredible investors.
Yes.
I don't know if you can speak to, how that happened, but even with, the famous Zuckerberg family.
Yeah.
Is it Ariel?
Ariel,
that
yes.
ended up being an investor in this round.
Yes.
How did that happen? And how cool is that to have her as part of the company?
Yeah, so very cool. And again, very much a serendipitous moment. So we had to make some of these really hard decisions to give ourselves a fighting chance. And then the very next week, we had an order come through from Ariel Zuckerberg. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. How did she hear about Pomp and what we're doing? And what I love about it is it really shows the power of what we're building. So her esthetician moved from San Francisco to LA, and she had reached out for a skincare recommendation, probably expecting an affiliate link or just a text back of what you should get. And unbeknownst to us, her esthetician was using Pomp, and she got an invite to the platform. Her routine was built, she ordered, and everything was drop shipped. And she actually reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, would love to learn more and see. And I think what has been really cool about our relationship and with the Long Journey team, so it's Lee Jacobs and Cyan Bannister and Ariel, and how supportive they were, not only just with introductions, but with our pitch deck. They put us in contact with 8-10 people just to help with our deck, and there was just a lot of support there. And so they ended up co-leading the round alongside Cassius, with Emmanuel and Gabby, and Gabby's on our board, and just a fantastic group of people now around the table. And a couple of the introductions that the Long Journey folks gave us were from the Reforged community, and just really thoughtful partners in growth that have built marketplace and vertical SaaS. And so we're just really excited to have, their not only just their financial support, but really all of the additional support that comes with it.
Amazing to have a customer, right, become your investor. Like, could not be a better sign that you're doing something right. Well, you're a first-time founder, and I'm sure that, maybe is good in some ways of, like, it's better not to know, right? Ignorance is bliss on some of these, whether you would have started the company knowing how hard it is. But what have been some of the things that really have stuck out to you about, this journey, that decisions you've made, or, like you talked about hard calls, like, is there any advice to other first-time founders that you would give, having, you're still doing this obviously, but have been doing this for a few years now?
I think it's getting really good people in your camp alongside of you, whether it's, a co-founder or a spouse or an executive coach. I think I have had really great support with my family, my husband, executive coach outside of Pomp to help me through. I think what no one told me how difficult it would be and how lonely it can be, because you really are wearing the burden and sheltering a lot of the other things from your team. Even with Nicole, my co-founder, I will shelter some things from her. And so as CEO, you do wear a lot. And so I would say get as much external support as you can. But also, I didn't know how much stuff I would be doing, that, like, legal, HR stuff. I mean,
a lot of hats.
All the things that I do not have any expertise in. I know the beauty skincare industry really well. I do not know all the HR and regulations and things like that that come with it, and just having difficult conversations with employees. And I think, there's just a lot that comes with it that you're not really prepared for.
There's a lot to learn.
Yeah.
Make you feel better. I've talked with some incredible entrepreneurs that have said, my board would fire me if they knew my Google search, right?
Oh, yeah.
The things that they probably are expected to know, have no idea.
Yeah.
And they're in Google, which now is ChatGPT, right?
Yeah.
But, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
And no one sees that side of it. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yes.
Well, we're obviously here at the Venture Summit. which is a great opportunity for founders and investors to connect.
Yeah.
You know, what brought you here? I think this is your first time being to the Venture Summit.
Third
Time.
Yes.
So clearly
Third.
you've had success.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit and what brought you back?
Yeah, I think it's just great. And we did just close around 6 weeks ago, but I think for us, it's great just to not only connect with other founders who are here, but also other investors. And for me, my goal with every investor conversation is, can I walk away with a piece of information or learnings from them or advice, or, you know, because they see a lot of companies, and so they see a lot. They also have a lot of portfolio companies. So is there something that I can learn from them? Yeah. And so that's always a goal for me with a lot of these conversations.
I love that. So not necessarily, a lot of them won't be your investors.
Right.
But what can I learn from them through that?
Yeah.
I have to end with this last question then, because, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have so many hats. You got to build your business, but you also have to stay on top of everything that's going on in your industry.
Yes.
How do you spend time learning, still trying to grow while you've got this baby that, you know, is your business trying to grow?
It is a lot.
How do you do that?
Yeah. And I also have a 1.5-year-old physical child as well.
It makes it easier?
So even easier. I get a lot of digital publications within the beauty space, and then a lot is actually done at the end of the year. So the industry will release yearly publications that both Nicole and I will dig into. So I would say for me it's shorter bits of content, whether it's a 30-minute podcast here or there or an article here or there. But it is difficult, especially when you are in fundraising season, when you really don't have time. So it is difficult to stay on top of it, but I try to just get little bits of content here and there to keep us up to speed and relevant with industry.
Yeah, so hard, but it's so important at the same time.
Yeah.
Well, Shannon, thanks so much for taking the time.
Yes, absolutely.
Love what you're building with Pomp. Incredible story of resilience. And I know for you feel like that was probably just one wave.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And there's many more coming.
Yeah.
But now you've gone through that one, which is probably one of the hardest ones in this environment. I'm sure you can get through the others. So thanks for taking the time.
Thank
Excited
you
to see
so
what you
much
build.
for having me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks.